New York is leading the charge on shit popping off with their new mayor. We're so excited to see the biggest city in the United States of America crumble to the hands of the Islamists, right? Aren't we all so excited? I'm Tall the Traveling Clat, and I will be your guide through this journey as we watch a Ben Shapiro video explaining it all. Let's take a look.
Violence is an artificial construction.
Death to the IDF!
We have to be very clear that what is happening here.
Death to the IDF!
These are the people the West has imported and then trained their own children to follow. Good job, West. Excellent job. The other big continuing story of politics in the United States, of course, is the impending election of Zoran Mandani as mayor of New York City. So Zoran Mandani, he continues to be as radical as it is possible to be. He is sympathetic to jihadism. He is effectively communistic in his approach to the markets. He is, in fact, racist against white people. And there's no other way to read the agenda that he has spelled out publicly. He was asked by CNN, what are your feelings about capitalism? His answer was, I don't like it.
Do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. And I think ultimately the definition for me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King decades ago. He said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. And that's what I'm focused on, is dignity and taking on income inequality. And for too long, politicians have pretended that we're spectators to that crisis of affordability. We're actually actors, and we have the choice to exacerbate it, like Mayor Adams has done, or to respond to it and resolve it, like I'm planning to do.
He does not like capitalism, you understand? He's in the greatest financial center in the history of the world, in New York City, and he does not like capitalism. That would seem to be a bit of a warning flag, you might think, especially given the fact he's a career useless person. He's a 33-year-old who's never held a solid job a day in his life until he's going to become mayor of the biggest city in the country and a financial center of the West. He grew up in the home of a radical anti-colonialist, in scare quotes, professor at Columbia University who's sympathetic to every form of radicalism, and an Indian-American mother who made radical left-wing films in Hollywood. That is his upbringing. Rich, privileged, as left-wing as possible, became a citizen rather late in life, and now is running for mayor of New York on the platform of I hate capitalism, and I hate Donald Trump, and also white people are bad. According to the New York Post, New York City mayoral candidate Zoran Mandani wants to hike property taxes for, quote, richer and whiter neighborhoods. It says that in his campaign platform, quote, shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. And now, that's just plain racist and also a violation of the Civil Rights Act. You're not allowed to use the law to discriminate against people on the basis of their race, obviously. Pretty astonishing that he is saying that sort of stuff out loud. But again, he can say all of this sort of stuff because being a radical with the college-educated white liberal base is the feature, not the bug. And there's so many people who are rational, who are hearing all this and they're like, wait a second, how's this guy going to win? And the answer is he's going to win because of this. Because the virtue signaling on the left is just that strong. It is that important to be radical. And the Omni-cause must prevail. They're going to elect a guy who literally said that violence is an artificial construction. Here he was, not all that long ago, talking about violence while he was promoting defunding of the police.
Oftentimes, we've even found as legislators, when we go into these courts, the term violent crime is even used when people are stealing packages. Violent crime is even used when people are accused of burglary and there happens to be a housing unit in that same dwelling. So violence is an artificial construction. And we have to be very clear that what is happening here with these district attorneys, that is violence. That is violence at the highest.
This is insane. This is crazy.
Violence is an artificial construction, you see. When somebody does something violent, or when they break in, or when they burglarize your home, that's non-violent. It's an artificial construction. Well, this is leading the cops to say, every cop in the city is going to leave, according to the New York Post. A New York City led by Zoran Mandani will mean a two-pronged breakdown of public safety, crime spiraling out of control, and NYPD officers leaving en masse, according to experts and veteran cops. They believe the U-turn during the final weeks of his primary campaign away from defunding the police was just a craven political move to score votes with undecided voters. Scott Monroe, president of the NYPD Detectives Endowment Association, said, quote, the city would be totally unsafe for people who live here. I go to bed and worry about the phone ringing. I'm worried about my members getting killed. I don't want to plan any funerals, he added. If you put a guy like him in there, our people are going to get hurt. Nobody's going to want the job. It's going to put recruitment back 5 more steps. NYPD brass are quietly bracing for a potential mass exodus. I've had guys call me and say, if he wins, I'm quitting. A police source said of Mamdhani. It's just weird that New York City would vote for him. I know he's not here for the police. Well, no, he's not. He's there for the radicalism. He's there for the radicalism. Okay, folks, let's say you already like shooting. Great. What if I told you you're only getting half the experience?
All right, Ben. Yeah. But yeah, this is really feeding into the extremism. Like, this is probably one of the most psychotic things I've ever seen America do in recent history. It's actually like he's pro-Hamas. This guy's a pro-Hamas mayor. That's like insane. It'd be crazy.
And that's demonstrated by how he was getting his support, which was partially out of the state of New York, largely from groups like the Council on American Islamic Relations. He's receiving support from apparently Linda Sarsour, terrorist supporter. According to justthenews.com, Jerry Dunleavy writing, Zoran Mandani's relationship with Sarsour went largely unremarked during the primary race for City Hall, even though he campaigned alongside her and she called him her friend. Apparently, he embraced a nearly decade-long association with Sarsour as he rose from activist to New York State Assemblyman, and now the Democrat Party's nominee to run America's largest city. Their views on the Jewish state, law enforcement, and far-left policies have been closely aligned. Literally the day after October 7th, he tweeted, peace can only begin by ending the occupation and dismantling apartheid, and condemned Israel on October 8th. That is who he is. He is a radical, and the radicalism is the thing that people like about him in New York City. By October 13th, he was saying that Israel was, quote, on the brink of genocide, and he was arrested while protesting Israel, not Hamas, of course. And now he's pledging that if Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu comes to New York, he will try to arrest him. He co-founded the Bowdoin College chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine, a group that instructed its chapters on October 8th to celebrate a historic win for the Palestinian resistance. He expressed his love for the Holy Land Five. Those were the leaders of the Holy Land Foundation, convicted in 2008 for fundraising for Hamas. Again, not a shock. His dad compares Israel to the Nazis. Both of his parents have sided with the Columbia protest encampment, of course. And naturally, this means that Mamdhani has earned at least a hat tip from the Horseshoe theory right. They say they don't agree with his policies, but they do like that he hates Israel.
Is it because people are so like desperate for government-run grocery stores, or love socialism, or love like foreign-born midwits running their cities? Probably not. That guy was the only person in the New York City mayor's debate to say he wanted to focus on New York City. All the candidates were asked, if you could visit a foreign country, what would it be? And they, of course, all had an answer. I think most said Israel. Great. And he said, I wouldn't go anywhere. I'd stay in New York. And like, if I want to meet Jewish constituents, I'd go to their synagogues, their homes, or whatever. But I'd be here in New York because that's what I'm doing. I'm running New York. That's my job.
Well, he gave the right answer.
He gave the right answer. He gave the right answer, at least. And he's talking. I totally oppose his program. Just
Absolutely.
To be clear. I don't think it works. But he's talking about economics.
Yep.
And everyone else is talking about foreign policy. Why is it hard to talk about economics, domestic economics?
I don't know. Apparently they don't know how to fix it.
Tell me, for one moment, Tucker Carlson's not being paid by a foreign government to propagate this. Are you fucking kidding me? Tell me for one moment. Prove to me real quick that Tucker Carlson is not being paid by Qatar or Iran to push this and destroy America from the inside. Tell me right now. That is hilarious.
Unbelievable. Okay, again, saying that you oppose his agenda and then praising him for talking about economics as a communist is pretty incredible. But again, the horseshoe theory there is all about the fact that Mamdhani hates Israel. And so, of course, to some of the people that you just saw on your screen, which is why they've been expressing so much support for all of the opponents of Israel that they can find on their shows. And that's kind of an amazing horseshoe theory thing happening right there, because that's not actually what Mamdhani said. If you actually go back and watch the debate, he didn't say, I don't want to focus on the Middle East. I just want to focus on what's happening here. He literally said he believes in the disestablishment of Israel as a Jewish state. That's what he actually said during the debate. So that's a complete mischaracterization in order to defend Mamdhani, because Mamdhani is, of course, a rabid Jew hater, a full-scale anti-Semite who supports terrorism. And this does say something about the radical left. The anti-Americanism, the anti-capitalism, the anti-Israel, the anti-Jewish of it, they are all linked. They are all of a piece. It is all about destroying systems that are successful. It's all about that. It's, by the way, also linked to anti-Christianity. All of these things are of a piece. The Omni-cause exists because of its omni-opponent. And the omni-opponent is the system. Capitalism, free markets, private property, free speech, strong foreign policy in the face of nefarious and evil enemies, traditional values like church or synagogue, right? Those are the things these people oppose. And you saw them in living color in Glastonbury over the weekend. So Glastonbury is apparently a giant music festival that happens in the UK, broadcast on the BBC. And at this gigantic music festival in Glastonbury, there was a person that I had never heard of, who you also probably have never heard of, calls himself Bob Villain, right, as opposed to Bob Dylan. And this person got up in advance of a band called Kneecap.
Ben Shapiro is so silly sometimes, right? Bob Dylan, not Bob Dylan. I respect Ben Shapiro, but it's so funny.
Which has, of course, gone out and campaigned against Israel and talked about how evil Israel is. And he decided that he was just going to call for the death of IDF soldiers, and also he was going to shout about how the West should essentially fall. Here's what he had to say, shouting at a gigantic crowd of people flying flags for Palestinians, terrorist groups, and all the rest. These are the people the West has imported and then trained their own children to follow. Good job, West. Excellent job.
We've done it all right? From working in bars to working for Zionists. And if we can do this, I promise you, lot, you can do absolutely anything that you put your mind to. I'm telling you this.
Free, free! Free, free! Free, free!
Alright, but have you heard this one, though? Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF!
This was broadcast on the BBC.
Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF! Hell yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be, will be, inshallah, it will be free.
So, just going to point out, Hamas is not going to attack that music festival, not like the Nova Music Festival, because all of the Hamas stands are in the crowd at this one. Maybe Hamas is attending. They found some of their favorite
Probably.
bands. This was broadcast in living color on the BBC. By the way, it wasn't just that this human piece of dreck suggested death to the IDF. He also ran around the stage shouting, quote, "I heard you want your country back. Shut the f*** up."
Heard you want your country back! Ha! Shut the f*** up! Heard you want your country back! You can't have that! Heard you want your country back! Ha! Shut the f*** up!
Okay, that's what he said on the stage there. So first of all, great ad for Nigel Farage's Reform Party, which says, get all of these people out of our country. Great ad for them. But this is indicative of a rise in not only, it's all the things. It is hatred for the West. It is hatred for the civilization that has granted them all of their power, all of their economic might, all of their privileges, all of their free speech. Right? And that, of course, is combined with the reason why they hate Israel. They don't hate Israel just because it's filled with Jews. Of course, that's one reason. They also hate Israel because Israel, they believe, is an extension of the quote-unquote colonialist West. That is the real reason they hate Israel. So, again, disgusting and vile, but indicative of a new left-wing base that exists across the political boundaries that separate so many of our countries, but unites the left-wing base. Well, that's all for now, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe,
Bye, Ben.
and comment.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for chiming in, Ben. We appreciate you. What is the world actually coming to? This is just insanity. Every day I come on here and I talk about the news and I talk about politics and I talk about current events and every day I really feel like I'm losing brain cells. When I used to be a world traveler, I don't feel like I engaged as deeply with this just like complete retarded brain rot that's happening, especially on the left side of the aisle in the world. I mean, it's happening on the right too. Yeah, I'm so proud of myself since a teenager of holding this perspective of I don't associate with the right, I don't associate with the left. Fuck them both. This is just we're losing our freaking marbles. Everyone's going crazy. Tucker Carlson is on his show praising a fucking communist Hamas supporter. You have Glastonbury Festival that used to be full of hippies. I've been there, by the way. I made a video on this YouTube channel from there. You have hippies in Glastonbury, what was supposed to be hippies, chanting death, basically death to Jewish people. You want to say death to the IDF? The IDF is the only army on planet Earth defending Jewish people. You're basically saying death to Jewish people. Just say death to the Jews. It makes you seem like less of a fucking pussy, to be honest. Bob Villain. It's not Bob Villain. It's Bob Dylan. Okay, sorry. I don't do a good Ben Shapiro impression. Anyways, I love you guys a long time. I don't know what the fuck is gonna happen, but let's fucking strap in. Let's keep going on this roller coaster ride. Tomorrow's gonna be crazy, I'm sure. See you guys next one. I love you a long time. Goodbye, class. If you believe in my content and want to support me, just know your help is needed. There's a bunch of great ways to support me, being PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or joining my Patreon community down below. Patreon is the best way to support my channel, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks depending on what tier you join. Another great way to support me is by buying my merchandise on thetravelingclat.com. I regularly drop new merch designs like this beautiful hat or this amazing shirt, where you can support the channel and get something cool for yourself. I also have an amazing Discord community with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for your support.